We're gonna rip this Band-Aid off. We're gonna rip this Band-Aid off. We're gonna rip this Band-Aid off. And we're gonna talk about this because, I have to say about the Biden administration is that I feel vindicated, and now people are saying that Biden suffered from dementia, but here we are. U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered a sweeping investigation into his predecessor's administration, directing the Department of Justice to examine whether unelected aides effectively governed the country during Joe Biden's presidency. The probe into Biden's final acts in office will scrutinize the use of auto pen signatures on official documents, including the communication of 37 death sentences and pardons granted to family members and political allies, according to the exclusive directive published by the White House on Wednesday. Given indications that President Biden lacked the capacity to exercise his presidential authority, if his advisor secretly used a mechanical signature pen to conceal his incapacity while taking radical executive orders all in his name, that would constitute as a unconstitutional wielding of the power of the presidency, Trump's order stated. The investigation centers around allegations that Biden's cognitive decline allowed staffers to make key decisions without his direct input. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Investigations have been tasked with determining whether there are coordinated efforts within the Biden administration to conceal the president's health issues from the public, including possible conspiracies to suppress evidence of cognitive decline and to artificially portray him as fit for office. Trump's previously accused of Biden's senior aides of potentially committing treason at the highest level. It's treason, then. And they exploited his predecessor's alleged cognitive decline to implement policies he may not have personally supported. The Justice Department investigation aims to determine whether all executive actions were authorized by Biden himself, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and White House counselor. White House counsel. Sorry, I said counselor. All right, White House counsel, not counselor. Sorry. David Warrington, have been tasked with leading the inquiry. Trump's critics have claimed that the probe is politically motivated and lacks substantive evidence, with legal experts note that the use of auto pen for presidential signatures is legally permissible and has been used by a number of previous administrations. The Trump administration maintains that it has never been used to this extent. The issue of Biden's health and cognitive abilities, in particular, was thrust into the national spotlight during his re-election campaign last year, when critics highlighted the veteran politician's unsteady gait, apparent memory loss, lapses, and difficulty articulating his thoughts. Matters came to a head after the disastrous debate against Trump in June 2024. Hey, that's this month. After which a growing number of Democrats called on him to withdraw from the race. Biden formally stepped down the following month. Last month, Biden's office revealed that he had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. Many commentators, including Trump's, alleged that the illness had developed for several years and that Biden's inner circle deliberately withheld the diagnosis from the public. Well, when it metastasizes in the bone, that's a bad thing. When it forms up in the bone, it's a bad thing. And it doesn't do that overnight. It means it's been there for a while. And nobody or nothing said anything about it. That's the problem. Nobody said a damn thing. Nobody said a damn thing about it. And in turn, that's what causes many people to realize that if Biden did get reelected, can you imagine if that news dropped? Or either that, can you imagine if they hit it? I mean, how bad would it have been? Would Biden have died in office? That's one of those things you have to wonder. And in turn, could we have had maybe a quasi-imperial presidency with Kamala Mamla? I mean, God forbid. But the Biden administration is falling apart because even Biden's former press secretary has abandoned ship. What? She's abandoned ship. She's writing a book. Take a look. She wrote a book. It's a hook.
Personally, I think what was the toughest thing to see in the 3 weeks was there was a disconnect for me. What was happening with leadership in the Democratic Party and how it was truly, as my former colleague, communications director, Ben LeBold said, it was a firing squad. And I had never seen anything like it before. I'd never seen a party do that in the way that they did. And it was hurtful and sad to see that happening. A firing squad around a person who I believe was a true patriot, a person who I believe did everything that he can for this country. A person who I believe, as I mentioned before, has done more in one term than most presidents had done in 2 terms, historical things. And I was shocked by what I was seeing.
And Karine, just to clarify, these are other Democrats and Democratic leadership coming out against Biden.
Yep, I had never seen anything like that. That was, if you're asking me, the thing that I saw in those 3 weeks, that was shocking.
What? What? You knew you were the press secretary. There's no way. Nuh-uh. I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this at all. Stop being stupid. Don't insult my intelligence. Don't be dumb. Don't be dumb with me. Don't you dare. Don't you frickin' dare.
Shocking. And instead of coming together to really...
Kevin Madison writes, it's sad to see so many people of color support a good friend of Strom Thurmond. That's right. Who is Joe Biden? Well, he gave a eulogy to Strom Thurmond. Hell, Joe Biden was against the civil rights movement. He was against busing and desegregation. He didn't want his white kids to be with black kids. You know, he was against Roe v. Wade. He was against a woman's right to choose. Never forget how he talked down to Anita Hill. No, Joe Biden might have forgot, but the world didn't forget. Don't forget that there were women who came forward during the 2020 election cycle talking about Biden being very aggressive, combative, assaultive, creepy. You know, got to be careful with these words. I know. But one thing that does stand out to me is that when those women did come forward, what did Me Too and Time's Up do? You can almost hear a pin drop.
Be unified and trying to figure out, how do we save our democracy? How do we fight back? That's what I was seeing. And, you know, that's what we decided to do for 3 weeks. And, you know, it was truly, truly unfortunate. And I think it hurt us more than I think folks realized to have done that.
And I know we're coming, and thank you so much for your question.
Thank you so much for your question.
I know we're coming up on...
I know. Wow. Isn't that great? But everyone's writing a book now. Isn't that great? Well, Biden's kind of declined. You got Original Sin by Jake Tapper. And now you got Karine Jean-Pierre. She's writing her own book too. You know, according to the publisher, the book is a hard-hitting yet hopeful critique of party politics. Ooh la la. But hey, you know what? Listen. Don't unsubscribe to Hard Lens Media, my lovelies. If I had to sit through the torture, so do you.
Hi, I'm Karine Jean-Pierre, and I am the author of a new book that's coming out this fall called Independent. It's coming out on October 21st, so please do grab it. And the reason I wrote this book, coming out of the White House, you know, serving as White House press secretary was an honor and a privilege. But since I have left, the people that come up to me, strangers that come up to me just across the country as I'm traveling, and sometimes right in my neighborhood, at a grocery store, supermarket, airport, my daughter's school, the number one question they ask me is, Karine, how do we get out of this? How do we protect?
Do you think people come up to her and ask her, how do we get out of this? Type 1 for yes, Kit. They do. They do indeed. They do indeed. That's what people do all the time, every time. They come up there and say, how do we get out of this? How do we do it? Type 1 for like, yes, they do. Type 2, man, no, they don't, man. Everyone's writing. You know what? I'm going to write a book. And then I threw up a Kit Cabello story of triumph and tragedy.
Protect our democracy? How do we protect vulnerable communities among us? What do we do next? Because we don't have answers here. That's what they ask me. And this is my answer. And what I mean by that is, in an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass. And that's what I've done. And that's what this book does. And here's the truth. And here's how I will lay it out to you. I think we need to stop thinking in boxes and think outside of our boxes and not be so partisan. And the way that I see moving forward in this space that we're in right now is If you are willing to stand side by side with me, regardless of your how you identify politically, and as long as you respect the community that I belong to and vulnerable communities that I respect, I will be there with you. I will move forward with you. And that is, I think, so important. So this book, Independent, it's about looking outside of boxes, not just always being in a partisan stance.
I smell so much bullshit. I smell so much crap. I mean, my God, come on. If you're gonna at least insult my intelligence, you know, just say, hey, look, man, I wrote a book because I need some money and I don't have a job. All right, buy my book. Buy my book. Everyone's writing a book now. Like, you know what it is? It's because as time continues on, as the days and weeks and months pass by, the great revelation about how incompetent or either that how unstable Joe Biden was is going to be revealed. And you know what? I'm going to think here, I'm going to be Mr. Doom and Gloom. I'm going to think it's far worse than we all thought. Okay. Now, it's not the first time we've had a president who had some questionable mental stability. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Ronnie Boy Reagan back in the day, you know, especially during his second term. And look, Alzheimer's is no joke. Dementia, no joke. Cancer, no joke. And I freaking hate cancer. Okay. That's how I feel about cancer. Boxes. It's effing corn pop. Hold on. What else we got here? Hold on. I want to make sure we acknowledge my chat. Boxes. Shit it. Exactly. But the issue with the Democrats is that, and especially people with the Biden-Harris administration, is that they're going to try and paint themselves into different kind of characters than they were perceived to be when we were covering them for the last 4 years, from 2020 to 2024. I mean, this administration, I mean, nothing you could say or do or write will fix you. And look, Joe's got Parkinson's. Just watch. I think it's a hodgepodge of many things that's wrong with Joe Biden. And it's all going to be revealed. It's all going to be revealed. And what do we say in the show about lies? And that is,
all lies will be exposed.
And it shall, even in 2025. It shall be. But hey, be creative in the comment section. If you wrote a book, what would you title it?